Cream cheese Danish or fruit filled, they're always my favorite in any bake shop anywhere, and we're gonna bake them together in our own homes today. The recipe, all of the ingredients, the tools I'm using for today, they're all linked in the description below. So go ahead and print that out and follow along. Buckle up, we have a bunch of work to do. Let's get busy. The foundation to a great pastry is actually the dough. We want a tender, flaky dough, which comes from a technique called lamination. It's layers of dough and layers of butter, and then you roll and you fold. We're making an easier version today where you actually grate the butter, and then we're gonna incorporate that into a yeasted dough. Then we'll do some simple roll and folds together. I'll show you every step of the way. And then we'll cut, and then we'll fill and bake and enjoy. We have much work to do, so let's get started. Okay, first thing you want to do is get your butter nice and cold. You can freeze it, or you can just make sure you're taking it out of the refrigerator. Just so you know, we're going to grate it, so you do want it to be really cold. This is 1 cup, 2 sticks, 8 ounces, or 226 grams. I think I covered every measurement. So get those in the freezer and get them nice and chilled. Next, you want to put 1/3 of a cup of sugar into a small bowl. That's 66 grams. We're going to use a portion of this for our yeast when we're ready. I'm going to put 1 egg in a dish and beat that. This is going to go into our yeast mixture as well. Just set that aside. Next, we're going to warm our milk. This is 1 cup of milk. It's 250 milliliters. You're going to heat it in your microwave. You can also do it on the stove. I'm doing a microwave. 20-second increments. You want to just stir it and then touch it with the back of your finger. You're getting the temperature warm enough to bloom the yeast, but not hot because it will kill it. So off we go to the microwave. The milk is nice and warm to touch. I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. That you can also use 1 packet, or that's 8 grams. Give that a nice stir. And to help feed the yeast and bloom it, we're going to give it 1 tablespoon or 12 grams of sugar. Again, give this a good stir till you feel like it's really nice, incorporated. Now we're going to put a timer on for 10 minutes. Just sit this in a warm place and let it bloom. Next, we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. In a medium-sized bowl, you want to add 3 cups of flour, or that's 375 grams. Add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is 3 grams. Give that a whisk. And then just set that aside. Pull your butter out of the freezer and let's get started. You want to take some of the flour mixture and sprinkle it into the bottom of a large bowl. This is what we're going to grate the butter into, and this just kind of helps it to not stick to the bottom. And then we start grating. I like to peel the wrap back and then just kind of hold on to the wrapper. So this is messy, but it's a very effective way to get small bits of butter, and that's what we need here. When your butter starts to melt in your hands a little bit, some of my followers actually gave me this amazing little tip. Just drop it in your flour, and then it doesn't stick to your hands. So thank you for those of you who commented and shared that nice little tip with me. It's been very helpful. Our butter is now done. You want to make sure that you don't smash it down. We want it to just maintain all the little bits and particles there. Let's put this in the freezer just for a minute or two while we finish up with our yeast. I was going to say we'll check the yeast to see if it's active and bubbly. This is crazy busy, happy, and ready to go. That's what your yeast should look like. Now we're going to stir in the egg that we beat earlier. Is going to go right into our yeast. That is amazing stuff right there. That's what your yeast should look like. We're going to grab the butter from the freezer. When it's in this fine little state, it doesn't take long just to get it a flash freeze, because we want it to stay separate and just have a million little bits of butter all through our mixture. Now we're going to add the sugar into the rest of our dry ingredients. I'm going to give that a whisk. Then we're going to add this flour right into the butter. And now we just want to toss this lightly, being careful not to mash the butter. And we want to mix that flour through all those little pieces of butter. Break it up as best you can and just kind of mix the flour in there. So I have tossed the flour all through the butter. I'll show you. This is what it should look like when you're done. And now our last step is adding the yeast into this. And you just pour it in. Now you want a spatula, a spoon, and you're really just incorporating until you have a kind of a shaggy, almost sticky kind of dough. And then we'll just put it in the refrigerator. I'm tossing it gently, kind of almost folding it. Because again, I don't want to mash the butter. I want it to maintain those little particles. This is what the dough should look like. It is just kind of shaggy and sticky and a little messy. And then we're going to cover it with plastic wrap. You want to put this in your refrigerator for anywhere from 8 to 24 hours. This has a nice make-ahead option. So you can make this today and then do the roll and fold tomorrow, or you can make this in the morning and do the roll and fold at night. So for now, we're going to put this in the refrigerator for 8 to 24 hours. All right, here we go. It's time to roll and fold. Our dough has been in the refrigerator for 15 hours. This is what it looks like. It's raised up a bit. This is fun stuff. I love working with yeasted dough. I just think it's fun. You want to lightly flour your surface. You don't want too much flour because it will dry out your pastry, but you have to have it or it will stick. You want to turn the dough out onto your surface. May stick a little in the bottom of the bowl. That is okay. As I'm touching this dough, I can feel little tiny bits of flour all through there, or butter all through there. It's perfect. Now, with your hands, you might want to just flour them so it doesn't stick too much. You want to begin by starting to shape this into a rectangle, because that's where we're headed with this. And at first it is really sticky, so you do need to use flour. You can't have it sticking to everything. Now I'm going to use the rolling pin to just generally start moving the dough. I'm just going to push. I have a bench scraper here. You might need something like that. I mean, the nature of this dough is it's going to stick. You just keep kind of moving it around, and you just want to keep working with it. Just pushing down, all the while keeping a rectangle in mind, because that's what you want. Okay, now I'm going to start actually using the rolling pin to roll the dough out. We're going to roll it into a 12 by 16 inch rectangle, or 30 by 40 centimeters. Then we'll do our roll and folds. Check it often, because you do want to make sure that it's not sticking to the surface you're working on. Just keep making sure that it's not sticking anywhere. That's pretty good. So I have a 12 by 16 rectangle here, inches, or 30 by 40 centimeters. And now we're going to do our first roll and fold. And that's where this might come in handy if you need it. You should be okay to just go ahead and flip it over. I'm going to take, you want to go halfway. And you're basically folding it like a letter, halfway again. And that's our first one. Okay. And now we're going to do that again. We're going to roll this out, the very same thing. We're going to do 12 by 16 or 30 by 40. Do that again. This is our second roll and fold. Do the same thing again. Halfway. Halfway again. Now we do it again. We're halfway done. I'm going to flour the surface. So this is number 3. The dough starts to get really nice to work with. By the time you get to this point, it's starting to get really elastic and just really nice to work with. And you need less flour, which is a good thing. Okay, we're doing our fourth one. Okay, we're doing our last roll and fold. That was pretty easy, right? And this dough is just loaded. I can see all the little bits of butter all through there, which is perfect. It smells nice. This dough is beautiful. Now we're going to put this little bundle in the refrigerator for a rest. We have definitely activated the gluten here. I'm going to put it in plastic wrap. Ideally, you want to let this rest 1 to 2 hours. Probably 2 would be better for it. You can actually refrigerate this up to 24 hours as well, which is another make-ahead feature for this recipe. And this can also be frozen. So you can actually get this far, put this in the freezer, and when you know you have company coming, let it rest in the refrigerator overnight. And then I'll show you the next step in a little bit. Off to the fridge we go. While our dough is resting in the fridge, we're going to make our cream cheese filling. This is the perfect time to do it. We're going to start with 6 ounces of really soft, warm, room temperature cream cheese. That is 170 grams. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. That is 39 grams. I have separated an egg. We need the yolk for this, and we will need the white further on in the recipe, so just hold on to that white. So 1 egg yolk, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. I'm using fresh. This is going to be 10 milliliters of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Okay. You always want to strain it. There's all kinds of seeds and pulp that makes its way into the juice that we do not want in our baked goods. And then I'm going to pour that into here. Again, this is 2 teaspoons. Okay, put that in there. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm actually using vanilla bean paste. I'm going to do this so you can actually see the texture. This is amazing stuff. So I pour it out. Vanilla bean paste has actual seeds of the vanilla pod in it. So it gives you an amazing vanilla flavor. So that is what we are using today. 1 teaspoon. The cream cheese recipe is ready now. All we have to do is mix it on medium-low until it is well combined, and then we're just going to set it aside. Regular vanilla extract is fine also. This just adds a little extra vanilla flavor. It really, really does. And you can see all the little flecks in there from the bean. Super, super yummy. That came together very nicely, very quickly, and our cream cheese filling is ready when we are. This is so funny. This is 24 hours basically, and I have just some healthy, happy yeast going on here. It made like a little yeast pillow. It's so cute. So we're going to roll our dough out. I have all the stuff I need here. Flour the surface you're working on. Before I even open that crazy thing up, I'm going to just get prepared here. Here's what we need. The same as we did with the roll and fold, we need a 12 by 16 rectangle or 30 by 40 centimeters. I want you to go just a little beyond because we're going to trim the edges so that we actually have really nice, neat 4-inch squares or 10 centimeter squares. So just giving you that little bit of information ahead of time. If you're using a mat, the measurements are on there. You can use a ruler, and I even brought this out. My bench scraper actually has 4-inch, like it has marks on it as well. So just keep that in mind. I'm loving this. So fun. All right. I'm gonna sprinkle flour. A lot of it is just little air pockets, which will disappear very quickly when we start rolling. In your rolling, just remember, think rectangle. We want nice, neat, rectangular shape when we're done here. Just letting the air come out. This is amazing dough. So nice to work with. Wow. Okay, so this, I'm looking at my mat here. I'm at about 17 inches. That gives me a little bit of extra room just to trim the edges off. Now I'm going to work on I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to work on the 12 inches this way. This is perfectly 16 inches. I've done a good enough job with keeping it rectangular. I don't even think I have to trim the edges much. Now we're going to cut this into 12 4-inch squares or 10 centimeters. You just want to mark every 4 inches. There. So we're gonna make our cuts now that we have everything marked. I'm using a pizza cutter. You can use a sharp knife. You can even use a pastry wheel. Now we have beautiful little squares to work with. This is fun. Now I have the egg white that we saved from before. Give that a little whisk just to break it up. Add a tiny bit of water, just thins it a little bit. Then this will be ready. You'll need a pastry brush. I'm going to move these, just separate them a little bit so that we can work with them a little easier. Okay. Now you want to brush the edges of each of the squares with your egg wash. This is going to kind of be like glue for us because we're going to turn the edges in. Okay, now would be a good time for you to preheat your oven. We still have some steps to do, but this will give it time to get nice and warm. You want to turn it to 375 or 190 Celsius. And let's keep going with our Danish. The next thing you want to do is turn each of the corners into the center. So just start with this one. You just want to turn that right into the center. Each one. I don't know about you, but I am having fun. Now I have put cookie sheets in front of me. I moved these back here out of the way so I can actually show you what I'm doing. I have placed these on the little cookie trays on parchment paper so that they don't stick. I have some nice parchment paper there. What you want to do is take your fingers and then just press lightly in the center, just kind of making an indentation there because we're going to put the cream cheese in there. So we're making a little bowl for it to sit in. You can actually use the back of a spoon even if you prefer, but this is just as easy. Basically just making a little indentation there. And before we put the cream cheese in, we're going to brush just the edges of the pastry with our egg wash. This is what makes it nice and golden brown. Now I'm using a smaller sized cookie scoop. This is actually about 1 tablespoon. It is 12 grams. And you just want to, this is if you have a cookie scoop, this is the easiest way. That way they're even too. And you just want to put 1 scoop in. I know it is tempting to put more, but it will just run all over if you put any more in. So. These are ready to go into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. We want to make sure that they're puffed up and they're golden brown. So we'll just put them in the oven and keep an eye on them. I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes and check them then. We're going to make our glaze while the Danish are baking, and I just want to say that is the most amazing smell coming from this oven. I can't even. My kitchen smells like a bakery, and I'm loving it. Okay, let's make the glaze. 1 cup of powdered sugar. That is 120 grams. 2 tablespoons of milk. That's 30 milliliters. And a tiny little 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, which is 1.2 milliliters. And we're just gonna give this a whisk. That is all there is to that. It's nice and smooth, and it'll be ready to drizzle onto our Danish whenever they're done. It's been 15 minutes, and we are taking a peek. Wow, they look beautiful. They need about 5 more minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the pans just for even browning. You can see some of them are browner on one side than the other. This should help. We'll give them 5 more minutes in there, and they should be done and amazing. Ooh, look at that. They're golden brown. They're beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at that. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Wow, I'm gonna get the other one out here. They look beautiful. I couldn't be happier. Ah, so nice. Okay, I'm gonna sit these here to cool for about 5 to 10 minutes. We're gonna put some glaze on them, and then I'm also gonna show you some of my favorite toppings to put on them. I couldn't be happier with these. They are absolutely beautiful. They smell incredible. They're done to perfection. They're just gorgeous. They are tender and flaky. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Okay, so here's what we're doing. I'm putting them on a baking sheet just so I don't get drizzle all over the counter, because that's just extra messy. Then the drizzle can kind of go into the bottom of this pan. So nothing fancy about this. I'm going to use the whisk, and I'm just going to drizzle each of these just a little bit. I think part of the beauty of this drizzle is there are big chunks and thin little drizzles, and when it's all said and done, they just look amazing. They look amazing, they smell amazing, and I want to eat them all. So much for not getting it on the counter. That's okay. So these are absolutely beautiful. They're perfect. They're ready to eat. You could eat them just like this. If I was at your house and you served me these, I would not complain one bit. However, I want to show you how to make a couple classic toppings for Danish. If you haven't guessed, lemon curd and cherry filling and blueberry filling. So we're going to briefly go through how to make those. So let's get busy and make some fillings. Let's make our lemon curd. First thing you want to do is get a medium-sized bowl and put 2 egg yolks in and 1 whole egg. To that, you're going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. That is 100 grams. Now we're going to whisk this briskly for 3 to 4 minutes. It'll start to lighten in color. It'll get much smoother. So this process is called blanchir or ribboning. What we're doing is aerating this mixture, and we're also emulsifying, or really we're just making sure this is incredibly blended together. You can see it's much lighter in color and smoother, and it should form a ribbon when you pick up the whisk, like so. And that is ready to go into our pan. Okay, now we need a medium saucepan. We're going to put our egg and sugar mixture in the saucepan. This is beautifully combined. That will make our lemon curd so much smoother. Now we're going to add in 1/3 cup of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Only fresh squeezed. That is 79 milliliters. Give that a stir, and then turn the heat on to medium-low. We're going to stir this continuously for 5 minutes. When it starts to boil, then we will remove it from the heat. Okay, we're going to remove it from the heat. We're going to add in 1/4 cup of butter. That is 56 grams. Just going to kind of plop that in there. You want to stir that until that's melted. And then we're going to add in 1/2 teaspoon or 2.5 milliliters of vanilla for flavor. It's always a good idea to pour this in through a fine mesh sieve. This will just make sure that you get any little bits of uncooked egg, or you just want to make sure that the texture of this is nice and smooth, and this is the best way to do it. You want to cover this with plastic wrap until it cools. This will prevent it from getting a skin. Press the plastic right down onto the mixture. It comes right off when it's cool, I promise. Sit this aside and let it cool. So let's make some blueberry filling. You need a medium saucepan. We're going to put 1/4 cup of water in the pan. That's 60 milliliters. Add in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. That's 8 grams. Give that a stir. Now we're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar in. That is 50 grams. Give that a stir. And now we add our blueberries in. This is 1 cup of fresh blueberries. You can also do frozen if you'd like. That's 150 grams of blueberries. Turn your heat to medium, and you want to cook this over medium heat for about 5 minutes. It'll start to bubble and boil and get thick, and it does take about 5 minutes. So just stir continuously. You'll see the mixture thicken, and you'll see the berries start to burst and break down. Okay, our mixture is bubbling. This took 5 minutes. That's it. That's done. Our mixture is beautiful, thickened, and now it needs to cool. I just put it in this heat-proof bowl. That's very important. I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap. Again, you want to just press this in onto the mixture so that it does not form a skin. And we're going to let that cool. Let's make some cherry filling together. You need a medium saucepan, a spatula. We're going to start by putting 1/4 cup of water into the saucepan. That is 60 milliliters. Add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. That is 8 grams. Give that a stir. This is what will thicken our mixture. Add 1/4 cup of granulated sugar in. That's 50 grams. Give it a stir. And then we're adding 1 cup of cherries. These are fresh. They've been pitted and then quartered. Put those in. Just going to give that a stir. And we're going to turn the heat on to medium. We're going to cook this for about 5 minutes. Around the 5-minute mark, you should see the mixture starting to thicken and bubble. When you see that, you want to just remove it from the heat. Okay, the mixture is simmering and bubbling. I'm going to give it just a little couple stirs here, and then we'll go ahead and just remove it from the heat. Pour this into a heat-proof bowl. This needs to cool down before we can use it. Doesn't it look beautiful? So yummy. Just going to give that a little stir, smooth it out. Now we're going to cover this with plastic. We have in front of us all 3 fillings we just made. Beautiful lemon curd. Look at that. So gorgeous. And then there's the blueberry and the cherry These took 5 minutes. This took 5 minutes and 4 ingredients. That's pretty incredible. These two are kind of sweet, so you never want to do this ahead of time in case the berries are sweeter or more sour. You go ahead and you make it and then just taste them a little bit. I tasted both of these and they're pretty sweet. So the berries were sweet, the cherries were sweet. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice just to brighten the flavor a little bit into each one of these. You could even do lemon zest if you wanted, but I'm just doing lemon juice. So give that a little bit of a stir. Same with this one. These turned out amazing. I'm going to make 3 lemon, 3 blueberry, and 3 cherry, and then we'll have 3 plain ones. There we have a dozen beautiful homemade cheese fruit Danish. I saved a little bit of the drizzle from earlier, and I'm just going to put some more of that on. It just makes them so pretty. Especially if you add fruit, you want to just get a little bit of that glaze, or the glaze on top of the fruit. So I pick blueberry. Just gonna cut it in half. See all the little pockets of air in there? And that layer of cream cheese, yummy. Now I'm gonna taste it. I wouldn't change a thing. The pastry turned out just perfect. There's a billion little holes and layers in there of dough and butter. It's very lightly sweet, and of course then the sweet filling and the cream cheese on top and that little bit of glaze. Super yummy. This is a match made in heaven. This was super fun. If you're a new baker, you're not quite as experienced, I would encourage you to at least try to make one of these fillings. They're so yummy. No canned pie filling. And if you're more experienced, I would encourage you to make all of them. And the best part is I have leftover of all of those for another occasion. Now, if you like this kind of breakfast sweet, I'm encouraging you to check out the cinnamon rolls. Matter of fact, let's go there right now. Let's go make some cinnamon rolls. I'll see you there.